Everybody. My name is Terry Benez, and like I said, I'm the CEO of the Greater Williamsburg Chamber and Tourism Alliance Business Council. That is a big mouthful as the Chamber of Commerce here in Williamsburg. And it's our pleasure to have all of you join us today. And we have two very elite speakers with us. We have Mr. Bill Mann and Mr. Shawn Avery. And I want to tell you a little bit about them and then give you some of the ground rules for the webinar. So once again, thank you for joining us. So first I want to tell you about Bill Mann. He was gracious when I first started and came up and visited me within my first couple of weeks, almost 2 years ago now. So Bill, thank you for that. And Bill is originally from Norfolk, but him and his wife now reside in York County. So you are a part of us. The Greater Williamsburg Chamber, you know, incorporates City of Williamsburg, York County, and James City County. He got his degree from William and Mary here in Williamsburg. And he's currently the executive director of the Greater Peninsula Workforce. Bill and his team are doing great work for us. And I really want to give you a shout out how creative you've been during the pandemic with the virtual career fairs and really thinking outside the box, how to offer venues and opportunities for people to, for our businesses to get staff, as well as for people looking for jobs. So thank you for being so creative during the pandemic. I know it's a handful for everybody.
Important work.
And then we'll move over to Shawn. Shawn currently serves as the president and CEO of the Hampton Roads Workforce Council. He has his degree from Florida Tech, a master's, and his undergrad is from CNU. So you're right here with us as well. He was a winner of the top 40 under 40 in Hampton Roads and is very active in the community, serves on various boards and commissions, including Go Virginia, Hampton Roads Chamber of Commerce, Tidewater Community College Workforce Solutions, the Advisory Board, the Boys and Girls Club of Southeastern Virginia, and Hampton Roads EDA. So, and since 2008, he served as the chair of the Virginia Association of Workforce Directors. Shawn, you are one busy person.
A little bit.
So again, I want to commend you and your team also during this time of the pandemic. Everybody's thinking outside the box, and y'all have just done a stellar job of really connecting us, keeping us connected, and keeping, giving opportunities to those who need them. So I would like each of you on the webinar, if you have questions, if you could send them to Amanda. She's right there at the top and it says questions. You can send them to her privately, and we will have time at the end of this call to answer any and all questions. So that way we have found that it's an easier way to do it. So just privately message her your question and they will all be answered at the end of the call. So Shawn, I'm going to hand it over to you. And again, Bill and Shawn, thank you very much for joining us and hosting this webinar for us today.
Well, thank you, Terry. Let's see if I can make sure I get this new high-fangled technology set up properly. Do you see my screen with the PowerPoint on it? Okay, perfect.
You did great.
All right, I figured this out. So thank you for having us today. You may be asking why the Hampton Roads Workforce Council is on this presentation, co-presenting with Bill Mann. Bill and I are actually the two workforce boards that represent the entire region of Hampton Roads, so the 15 localities. I represent the 7 localities on the south side, and Bill has the pleasure of representing all the localities on the peninsula, as well as Gloucester. I am also a Peninsula resident as well, so I live in Pocosin and was born and raised on the Peninsula, so I definitely have a lot of love for the Peninsula now and in the future. Don't have any plans on moving. But the reason why Bill and I are co-presenting this together is because we're in the unique opportunity now where we're starting to bring together our two organizations into one organization that will represent the entire region of Hampton Roads. We've worked very collaboratively over the last 20 years or plus on various projects, and I've always heard from the business community that this is one region when it comes to our employers and employees. And so Bill and I, over the last year, and our staffs and our board, and there's a number of our board members on this call today I've seen, have really been coming together the last couple of years to bring the organizations together under one umbrella organization. So by this time next year, we'll be one staff organization with a new name and new board and new setup. And so we're going to go into a little bit of that today, but we want to give you an overview of where we are now and some of the programming we're doing to help the region. So this new collaborative, until we get a new name, it's called the Southeastern Virginia Regional Workforce Collaborative. And so Bill and I are going to tag team this presentation. I wish we were in person doing this, but it's the new world we both live in, and we'll make this happen. So with that said, let me make sure I get this rolling. So we really, if we were presenting this to you in March or February, we probably wouldn't even be talking about some of this first few slides, but we really thought that it made sense that we really give you a picture of where we are now. I know everybody that's on this call is very familiar with what's going on with COVID and how it's impacted our economy and really changed how we do work. This presentation is a prime example. I'm doing more more Zoom meetings now than I've ever before, and it seems like we're more busy now because of this new technology that we're working. But it's really required Bill and I to rethink how we provide our services to individuals within the community, and that's really because of where we are with the state of the workforce now. I want to show you a few slides just to kind of give you a feel of what's going on with where we are. So unemployment is at record highs. This is just the last 1 year time, and you can see back in May, the numbers we were at record low unemployment. It was really a employee job market. They could pick and choose where they wanted to work, and employers were having a very hard time finding quality workers with the skills that they needed to be successful. And it would take forever to find somebody who would be interested in the job, or if they found somebody, they may lose them to another job that was paying just a little bit more. And that has completely flipped since COVID came on. There was no runway for any of this, what we saw. We had no preparation for those activities. Come March, as you can see on this slide, things just shot straight up. While they're coming down a little bit, it's still unprecedented, the numbers we're talking about. Just to give you a little perspective on what we're looking at here, the green line is the Planning District Commission, which is basically the equivalent of the entire region. Then you're looking at Virginia in the United States. So just to let you know what these numbers look like, right now we're looking at about 10.3% unemployment rate for our region compared to 9.2% for the state and 13% for the country. Again, we were looking at below 4% this time, even in February. And so you can just see how this has just changed the dynamic of everything we're working on now. And this is definitely not shocking, especially with the historic triangle area. Many of the jobs that have been lost have been in the accommodation and food services. I know it's surprising to see healthcare, but when they stopped doing the elective surgeries, there were some changes in the healthcare system, administrative support. Retail has been strongly hit. Small businesses are very much in the need for services. And so this just kind of gives you a little bit of a snapshot of what we've been working on to try to figure out how we can help these industry partners, help the individuals that have been impacted and maybe get new skills or get traded into another organizational structure or another job opportunity where they can use those skills that they've had to continue to collect a check.
This particular chart digs a little deeper and gets into the characteristics by the top 5 occupational groups. And as you can see, with the exception of the healthcare and social assistance, these top 5 occupation groups with the largest number of claimants, as you would expect, correlates with the characteristics that you saw by industry on the prior chart and such. Each of these, the other thing I would point out here, in each of these situations, the number of UI claimants, and the only exception here is in management occupations, the number of individuals that have been impacted within our planning district exceeds the overall number that you see across the entire state. So that's an important index of how things are unraveling as we go forward with this pandemic. And the other thing I would say about this particular chart definitely shows what the impact has been on those businesses and industries that are an important part of the economy in the Upper Peninsula, Williamsburg, James City County, Upper York area and such. So this gives you a little bit deeper insight into how things are presently situated. Moving on to the next chart, Shawn. This, of course, reflects what we've been hearing about in terms of unemployment insurance payments. There was an article that came out today that indicated Virginia saw the most jobless claims last week across the entire nation, which is not good news. Based upon the information that we've received from the Virginia Employment Commission, since January of this year, there have been more than 1 million claims that have been filed. And that exceeds the claims that were filed in the last 5.5 years with the Virginia Employment Commission. So as we've been hearing and we've heard on the news, they've certainly been overwhelmed by this particular situation. In terms of benefits that have been paid out, we're advised that more than $6.2 billion in benefits have been paid out as a result of the number of claims that have been submitted with the Virginia Employment Commission. And likewise, there's a concern about the number of claims that have been flagged for further review before they can be paid. This is in the neighborhood of about 60,000 right at the moment. And so the VEC has definitely had to staff up in order to handle this situation. And I know this has presented some real problems for a number of individuals who are still waiting for their claims to come in. So this has definitely been a problem. Hopefully things will continue to move forward and the uninsurance and payments will be resolved and folks can, hopefully get on with their lives in this regard. Moving over to the next part of our presentation. As Shawn indicated, we are moving forward with a realignment, merger, if you will, of our local workforce boards. And if you go to the next slide, you can see, of course, the area that we're talking about, the 7 localities that Shawn mentioned on the peninsula to include Gloucester County across the York, plus the 8 down on the south side of Hampton Roads. And essentially, this effort goes back to work that we were doing back in 2018 when our board chairs came together to talk about our role in supporting both job seekers as well as the business community. And there were a number of things that we discussed. And one of them was the fact that we did recognize that we're part of one regional economic ecosystem that comprises southeastern Virginia. We also understood that employers hire workers from across jurisdictional and geographic boundaries. It really doesn't matter where somebody lives, and our job is to help them the employers find the workforce development, individuals that they need with the requisite skills that they're looking for and such. And so we really felt that we needed to make this as simple as possible for both job seekers and employers to access the services and programs that we are funded to provide. And so we decided that we wanted to go ahead and align our service delivery structure. And so we decided what we needed to do was to establish a collaborative regional approach that addresses the needs of area employers. And we wanted to focus primarily upon business engagement strategies. We also wanted to have the ability to speak with one voice. So we're looking at continuous communications where our services and programs are closely aligned and support our outreach efforts to our communities. And so we wanted to also cultivate better labor market intelligence. We're very much concerned about issues pertaining to veterans, services, and their spouses. And we wanted to make sure that we had programs in place that really supported our youth population or young adults, or what we would refer to as the emerging workforce, and make sure that we were keeping up with new technologies, new career pathways, and the various programs that we have in place with our training providers to ensure that our customers are adequately prepared for the jobs of the future. And so we kicked this off back in September of 2018, and it proved to be so successful that this past December, our board chairs decided that we needed to take the next step. And opposed as working as allied organizations, as Shawn pointed out, it was time to think about a new organizational structure that addressed the needs of the entire region with one regional board. And so a letter went out with a resolution to the 15 localities, to their governing bodies, proposing that we move forward in this particular direction. And as of July of this year, we've gotten agreements. Each of the city councils and county boards have reviewed this matter, they've discussed it, and they have agreed that this is definitely the way to go to improve our regional economy and move forward with the best workforce development programs possible. And so we're now in the process of putting that application together. This will go forward to the State Workforce Council for review and subsequent approval by the governor. And we think we're on a good track forward in that regard. So as Shawn pointed out, by July of next year, we should have a new organization, new name, new branding in place, and a much more comprehensive package of programs and services to provide.
Thanks, Bill. And just to put this in perspective too, once this merger is completed, we will represent 25% of all the funds that the Commonwealth of Virginia's Governor's Office receives for Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act funds. So it's going to make us a powerful player. There's 15 workforce boards in the state. There'll be 14 once we're done. And our one workforce board will represent 25% of the state's funding for that program. So really, how do we actually deliver these services for our region? And really, everything we do and everything on this chart, I really kind of describe this in a business fashion as our product lines. These are how we deliver services to the community. And it's really all around what the business community needs, what economic development needs, and everything we put in place really drives to that end goal. So it's good to see. I've seen a number of economic development people online, Jim Noel and Yuri Adams and Kate Sipes, and my good friend Vaughn Gilbreth is on the line as well. We work very closely with economic development to make sure we understand what the business community needs are and then put programs in place to meet those needs, really around connecting talent to the business community needs. And so this is how we do it. We have our Virginia Career Work Centers, which we have 5 right now throughout the region. And Bill's going to make a pretty nice announcement here at the end of this presentation on a new one that's coming online soon. We have a whole division that's just focused on business services, and we're going to delve deeper into each one of these lines here shortly. We have a Next Gen Pathways division that focuses on developing our emerging workforce. We have a Career Access Network, which is associated with your library system so that we can get further into the communities we represent. The Veterans Employment Center and our Veterans Career Compass is around retaining our talent that is coming out of the military, so our transition and service members, our veterans, as well as their families that are associated with that. And then we also have the foundation that helps support this whole project. The way that most of these programs are funded is through the federal government, but our foundation allows us to actually expand a number of these projects. So for example, our Veterans Employment Center is not funded with any federal funds. So we don't have to worry about turning away anybody that may not qualify for those programs. And so our foundation has grown from about $25,000 per year in the foundation about 5 years ago to this year we'll end up with $1.5 million of funding within that foundation, which again allows us not to be able to turn away any program that's out there that needs support. So I'll touch a little bit on the connecting talent to opportunities, and this is done through our Virginia Career Work Centers. On the south side, we have 4 centers located in Norfolk, Portsmouth, Suffolk, and Franklin. And then on the peninsula, at this point in time, we have one in Hampton. But again, Bill's going to make a pretty nice announcement a little bit later. And this is really around where an individual can come in and receive services from career developers and our staff that can connect them to employment and job opportunities, as well as educational opportunities. So last year alone, these centers served over 12,000 individuals we were able to put over 700 people into training programs. And when I say that, we work with our educational partners to identify the high demand, high growth fields in the region. And then we're able to take our funding and actually send those individuals to school and help pay for those tuition costs. As you can imagine, these centers right now are more important than ever before. These are really connected with the Virginia Employment Commission. And so we're seeing record numbers through these centers right now. And unfortunately, not all of them are open. The four that I have on the south side, only one is open right now to the public, but we're doing a lot of virtual services. So this has really changed from a very hands-on, one-on-one type of activity to a lot of virtual activities. This Zoom and these webcam features are becoming our new best friends when it comes to delivering services. We're doing everything from career exploration type activities to resume building to also virtual job fairs, where we're actually bringing in employers and bringing job seekers together and connecting. Last week alone, we partnered with the Virginia Employment Commission throughout the state and actually had over 5,800 transition individuals get connected with employment opportunities. And so this is a very exciting program, and Bill's going to give you a little bit of stats right now.
Yeah, the stats that you're looking at on this particular slide, of course, are at the end of our last program year, fiscal year 19, and they do represent the pre-pandemic situation and such, but you can see that we were very engaged working with our local businesses throughout the region. We had job seekers coming in, working very closely. We were very concerned at the time about finding the number of workers that we needed in order to fill the vacancies that existed in the various sectors of the regional economy and such. And so we were seeing a lot of people coming through our facilities and such. And then of course the pandemic struck, and we continued to deliver services, again, as Shawn was saying, virtually through Zoom meetings and telephone calls and that sort of thing. Our situation here on the Peninsula right now is that we are seeing individuals on site at our comprehensive one-stop center over on Butler Farm Road in Hampton on the Thomas Nelson campus. It is by appointment only, and we are working to do what we can to help individuals that are looking at retraining for new careers or occupations and such. And getting into some of the things that really make up the backbone of our operation, anyone who's familiar with federal programs know that there's a stack of regulations that go along with each federal dollar that you receive. And of course, the programs that are funded under the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act are very much performance driven. We have a set of metrics that are applied to each of our primary target populations, those being adults, dislocated workers, and youth. And what we're concerned about is looking at, are we putting people to work in training related occupations at the end of their training program? So the employment rates that we're able to achieve with our participants who complete training and move into unsubsidized employment are closely measured to make sure that we are looking at meeting the goals that we've established with the state on an annual basis. And so employment rates are important. We're very much concerned that the training that we provide is moving people into occupations where they are receiving family sustaining wages and fringe benefits that they need in order to make sure that they are providing for themselves and their families and such. So medium earnings is another indicator that we look for. Importantly, credential attainment, skill acquisition, industry recognized credentials are very important to us in terms of ensuring that we're enrolling people in training that is going to result in the skills and the credentials that they need in order to be successful in the labor market. And so that's an important part of it, as is the measurable skill gains in terms of what an individual is actually able to do. So these are very important. Now, in addition to that, we're also very much interested in what is the return on investment for each dollar that we spend, public dollar or private dollar, whether it comes from the federal government or from our localities or from one of our donor organizations. We want to make sure we're getting the biggest bang for the buck. And so at the end of fiscal year 19, we commissioned Chimera Economics and Analytics to take a look at what we were doing across the entire region. And they produced a report for us where they, the study indicated that for each dollar that we spend on training programs, there was a $4.30 return on investment in terms of income earned by individuals that were trained through one of our programs. So we feel that's a pretty good return on investment, working with individuals who have a number of barriers to employment and being successful in the program. So we were pretty happy about that. But these are some of the things that we measure on a regular basis as we go through our program year. Shawn? Yep. Now, we have some of the finest staff anywhere that you'll see in workforce development. In this particular slide, what we're looking at here are other individuals, volunteers essentially, that work with our program. We know that there are difficulties for individuals from certain communities and neighborhoods to access our one-stop centers. Transportation throughout the area can be a problem for individuals in that regard. And so what we have done is to establish community outreach sites, working with community-based organizations as well as faith-based organizations to help reach out into targeted communities so individuals can go to these community outreach sites and begin to learn about the kind of services and programs that are available through our one-stop centers and such. And so what we have here are trained volunteers throughout the entire region that are supported by our board staff to help provide initial workforce services to acquaint individuals with the kind of services, programs, activities that they can access through either of our programs and such. And this is very important because it provides us with the ability to reach into the communities that make up our neighborhoods and such, and get the word out about the programs that we have, the services that we can provide. In the Upper Peninsula area, we have 9 of these community outreach sites. 6 of them are specifically in the Williamsburg, James City County, and Bruton District of York County. And these are very important to us in terms of bringing services to the individuals. Now, of course, as Shawn has alluded to, towards the end of this presentation, I'm going to share some information about how we're looking to expand that reach through additional sites throughout our area and such. So I won't say any more about that right at the moment.
I'm going to keep teeing you up, Bill, on that one, all right?
Thank you, Shawn.
I wish all the programs we could do would be solved by our transitioning individuals, but we understand that we have to be prepared for the future of our region. And so that really comes about in empowering our next generation of our workforce, so our emerging workforce. And this is really our youth from 14 to 21. We even go up to 24 in some of our programs. And this is around really explaining to our youth or our young adults the opportunities that are available in our region. We want those coming out of our school divisions and our K-12 system and in our colleges to stay in this region, to know that there's opportunities here and to really connect them with the opportunities. So we're engaged in a number of activities. We have both federal and non-federally funded programs. And I'll let Bill talk a little bit about the federal programs, but some of the non-federal things we're doing mentorships now. We're doing internship programs. We're getting into apprenticeships. We're working very closely with our K-12 system, our career and technical education, New Horizons. I think I saw Casey Roberts is on this call. We're working with our 4-year institutions and our community colleges to develop career pathways and pipelines so that an individual doesn't feel like I have to go to get a 4-year degree. We're talking about the opportunity of being able to go get a certification, get a job, go back into the workforce, get out of the workforce and get another certification. This is all about a pathway that we're on, and this is not a one-size-fits-all. And so we really talk about those opportunities that are available out there. And so we're not able to do this alone. We really do this in concert with all of our educational opportunities and our educational programs, and really develop customized programs that meet the community needs. So Bill's going to talk a little bit about some of the return on investment in that too.
Yes, again, just like our adult and dislocated worker programs, the youth program is very much performance driven, looking at the same measures that I just discussed before for adults and dislocated workers. And again, here on the peninsula, We do have both services for in-school youth as well as out-of-school youth that are delivered by New Horizons Regional Education Center. And the folks over there, Casey, give them a shout out again. The folks just do a superb job in working with those individuals. And of course, this has been a very difficult task to continue on with the pandemic situation that we have. We primarily look at both delivering occupational skills through either classroom training or perhaps through work experience. We support apprenticeships and such like that. We're also very concerned about soft skill acquisition, dressing appropriately, being part of a team, knowing how to communicate. We're also interested in youth acquiring leadership skills. And so we're very much concerned about a full package that creates a well-rounded individual with the requisite skills and credentials that employers are looking for. And so again, we've been very successful in meeting our performance outcomes that are associated with the youth program. I would add something else that we were looking at very closely before the pandemic struck. It's still on the table in terms of concern that the members of our respective boards have. Again, if you recall, prior to the pandemic, we were working very hard to try and augment the number of people that were in our labor pool, looking at our labor force participation rates. And one of the concerns that we have dealt with the issue of what we refer to as disconnected youth. And what we mean by that are young people who may have dropped out of high school or may have actually graduated, but have not gone on for additional post-secondary education, nor are they working. They're kind of on the sidelines. And we felt that it was really important to take a look at the resources that we had in order to reach this particular group of young adults to help get them back into an educational program or track or into the labor market, or both if we could pull that off. And so this is an issue that we're still concerned about. And hopefully, as things return back to something that resembles the old normal we used to know, we can reconvene a task force that we were putting together to take a hard look at this particular issue and make sure that all of the young people that reside within our area are on a good track forward in terms of getting the education that they need, in terms of getting the skills that they need, and in terms of moving into the labor force and having some success with their career aspirations. So that's still an important concern that we have in front of us that I'm sure we'll be addressing in the days ahead.
So one of the big populations in our region that we all see as a benefit to us and to the country is our veterans population and our transition and service members. This is really a focus area of a number of organizations in the region. And really, there's not a lack of services for veterans and the transition and service members in our region. It's really that it's a little overwhelming for those service members that are transitioning out. Sometimes they feel like darts are being thrown at them and just there's so much coming at them, they really don't know where to turn to get the support that they need. So about 2 years ago, about 25 of partners in this realm came together and said, we're going to focus on working together and not separate. We're going to focus on trying to keep as many of those transition and service members here in our region. You've probably heard the numbers. It's anywhere from 8,000 to 12,000 individuals transition out each year among all the bases in Hampton Roads. And that is a prime workforce that we need to keep in the area. They have great soft skills. They have great hard skills that they've learned in the military. And so we want to be able to figure out how to transition them out and keep them here and provide the support that they need. So about 2 years ago, we on the South Side set up the Hampton Roads Veterans Employment Center. It's located in Norfolk. It is a freestanding center where an individual can come in and get all the services that we talked about earlier, but they're focused on the veteran population. And they're really provided by veterans themselves. So they speak the same language and really help to connect them with educational opportunities or connect them with employment opportunities here in the region. So we've been open for 2 full years. And these are the stats from last year. We saw we had 8,200 visits to the Norfolk Center, 2,600 individuals. These numbers are 3 times as high as they were the first year we were open. So it's only growing, and we know these numbers just in the first 3 months that we've been open this year, before we had to close in March, we were already topping these numbers. So we already know that this year is going to be even higher. So we're in the process now of opening one of these on the peninsula as well. So we're working very closely to identify a location, identify resources to support that center. And hopefully the plan was to have it open this summer, but we're moving hopefully in the fall. We're still playing. We'll see how this COVID continues to play out, but hopefully we'll get this service up and running. But we're still offering a lot of programs virtually around the Veterans Center. So those are being offered now. And we actually even have the Veterans Career Compass, which is an online portal where a veteran can go in, they can upload their military transcript, and employers can post their jobs, and then it makes the connections together. So we encourage any employers that are on there, please visit the Veterans Career Compass and take advantage of that opportunity. And stay tuned. Hopefully we'll have some more information on the new center here in the coming months.
Yeah. If I could add one thing, in terms of serving veterans, something that's very important to both Shawn and myself is not just serving the veterans that are looking to transition, but when military families relocate to our area, the spouse has had to give up their employment situation from wherever they were coming from. And we find that it's really a good strategy to go ahead and work with the spouses when they arrive here, when they first arrive here, to help them, sink some roots down into our area and become acquainted with all of the various programs, the organizations, and help them to resettle and become comfortable in our community. And we think that that approach goes a long ways to helping them consider staying here when they're at the other end of the situation and looking to transition out of the military. If they've been able to put down some roots, they understand the benefits that they can enjoy by remaining as part of our community. We think that's a good thing. So both the veterans and their spouses are really important customer groups that we have and look forward to serving as we reach out to the military community.
So going forward, you're 2 slides away from Bill's big announcement that he's going to make. But in the meantime, got a couple other things. In addition to the merger we've been talking about, which is actually the big thing that's going to happen this year, we've got a few other cool little things that we're working on going forward. One is around talent pipeline development. How do we make sure that we're developing all the pipelines that we need to be successful? And so we're working with both of our regional economic development organizations, the Hampton Roads Alliance, as well as the Greater Williamsburg Partnership, to identify how we can support their targeted industry focus areas. And we're working now with Vaughn as she's going to be updating some of her information. But we're looking at maritime and offshore wind and the healthcare and information technology and distribution and logistics and advanced manufacturing materials and components and food and beverage and business and shared and professional and technical services, defense and tourism. These have been identified as the prime areas where there's going to be a lot of economic growth. Not that we're not focusing on other areas like construction or finance or any other areas, but these are ones that we need to put a little extra focus on as we're starting to grow these opportunities. So we're developing the talent pipeline right now. We've got a coalition that's working together with a number of educational partners. We actually are in the final stages of getting a Go Virginia grant to expand our staff beyond our current programs that we have now, to bring on some additional resources so that we can focus on retention activities. We've got a program called Campus 757, which is looking at how do we retain those that are graduating from our 4- and 2-year institutions and show them the opportunities that are available here. We know that sometimes individuals graduate and then they go off somewhere else. We want to show them that there's opportunities here to stay. We were developing a pretty large external regional recruitment effort, which is kind of on hold right now just because of the sheer numbers from COVID. We think we may be able to do a little bit of the internal recruitment activities, but at some point when the unemployment goes back down, we're going to have to start looking at the sheer numbers that we need in our region to fill some of our job vacancies. And so looking at external regional recruitment efforts. Again, expansion of our Veterans Employment Center, expansion of our internships and mentorship programs. We're looking at developing new training solutions, on-the-job training opportunities, apprenticeships, and all those type of activities. And then we're actually even looking at potential for some staffing solutions where we partner with companies to identify their needs and then work on some staffing solutions. So we have funding for almost every one of these opportunities here. And so stay tuned over the next year. You'll see these growing and you'll see a lot more information coming out on this as we move forward. And last but not least, Bill.
Okay, the big announcement. Going back to last summer, 2019, we have been working closely with our friends and colleagues over at Thomas Nelson Community College to expand the reach of our one-stop service delivery system. And what we wanted to do was to bring these services up to the Upper Peninsula. And so we have been working closely with Dr. Susan English over at Thomas Nelson and other members of the staff to locate an affiliate one-stop center on the historic Triangle Center campus up in James City County. And we were moving along fairly well with this until the pandemic struck. And so that kind of put us on hold. Our original target date for opening services and bringing all of the partners that we work with, the Virginia Employment Commission, our social services friends, Department of Aging and Rehabilitative Services, all of the various partners to this particular site on a scheduled basis. We were looking to do this effective July the 1st. Obviously, with the closures and reopening phases and all the things that we've been dealing with, that's been put on hold. But we do have an ongoing commitment from our board as well as from Thomas Nelson Community College to open up a facility on the historic Triangle campus and be able to deliver services at that location to our customers up in James City County, Williamsburg, and of course, Upper York. We think this is an exciting move forward. We're anxious to get started and get this in place. We've got some funding set aside to create the facility with necessary some computers and resource room, as well as some private space for ongoing counseling, career development, and planning. So we've got all the pieces to the puzzle together. It's just a matter of getting past this pandemic to put them in place and begin delivering services. Hopefully we can get this back on track towards the end of the current calendar year. We'll see, perhaps have some sort of opening early in the new calendar year and such, but it's at the top of our to-do list and we're anxious to get this back on track.
Yay! You know I'm ready, Bill.
All right.
I've been ready.
See, Bill, you got a big shout out for that one, Bill.
All right, I love it.
Love it.
Well, again, the last couple slides, really what we do would not be possible. We do get federal funds to do a lot of the programming, but we would be just the federal program and we'd only be focused on that a very small population that we could serve. And so our boards have taken the stance that we need to be very inclusive of all the programs that we offer. We really need to be able to move on the dime, work at the speed of business to really meet the needs of business. And so our Hampton Roads Workforce Foundation, which has its own separate board and its own 501c3 status, has been very active in bringing additional resources to our region. So we get a per capita from all the localities we represent, many business partners that are involved. This is just a few of them. We brought on some new ones over the last month or so. And these are just some of them here that are really dedicated to workforce development, dedicated to investing in our future workforce economy. And so I just love to show these slides, and we're always looking for new partners in this project. So just wanted to show that it's not just the federal dollars that are providing this, but really it's the community that's invested in the workforce development system. So that's leaves us with 15 minutes of questions. And so Terry, I'll turn it back over to you.
Okay, great. Bill and Shawn, that was a fantastic overview. I think I learned a lot and I hope everybody else did. I'm going to pass it over to Amanda. I know we have several questions and a comment too about the Thomas Nelson announcement. So Amanda, can I kick it to you?
Sure, yes, we have a few questions, not too many. The first question is coming from John Whitley, and he says, paid sick leave is a significant compensation for all classifications of employees. What is the collaborative's position on employees receiving paid sick leave, and especially for part-time employees? Will the collaborative support legislation for paid sick leave for part-time employees?
Bill?
That's a question that we've not, has not been put to us before. again, when we're working with individuals to put them into a training program, we're very much interested in that they are able to move forward into a position, an occupation where they have a full benefits package, which would include sick leave as part of the benefits that they receive and such. Other than that, we really have not taken a position on sick leave per se.
Yeah, I would have to agree with Bill on that not being a position that we've taken on that, but it's very interesting. Ms. Whitley, I'd love to talk to you off the call more about that, learn a little bit more about that. So maybe I can get your email some way and we can connect up on that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Great. So our next question comes from Vaughn Gilbreth, and let me find it. She says, under labor participation, are you seeing an uptick in individuals inquiring about job opportunities now that the $600 weekly unemployment benefits ended July 31st and its return is uncertain? Or is it too soon to tell?
It is definitely too soon to tell. I will say that we've been looking this week at our numbers coming into the center, and they are definitely on the uptick. We're actually thinking that next week is going to be the big week when people start when they get their last check and they're realizing that that $600 is gone. And so yes, because we're hearing from employers, they've been offering some of the jobs back to the employers, to the employees. And some have not taken them up on those job opportunities because they say, I can make more money working from home. And so we're prepared for that. We actually have brought a few extra part-time staff as well as some full-time staff to really look around job placement now. So as we see the numbers start to increase and individuals now understanding that benefit's going away, I need to go back and get my paycheck. We're seeing that is going to happen. So haven't seen the numbers as high as we thought yet, Vaughn. So I think probably in the next week or two, that's going to be really going to be hitting pretty strong.
I would agree with that. I think it's going to be another week before we see an increase and such. That does bring up a couple of other things that I think are useful to mention. One, again, going back to the unemployment insurance situation, the VEC has focused all of their resources on trying to resolve claim issues and such. And as a consequence, they have put the employment service, which is funded under the Wagner-Pizer Act, under contract with the 15 local workforce development boards. So in addition to being able to deliver programs and training services under the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, we're adding staff to help deliver employment services under Wagner-Pizer. The other thing that we've discussed between our respective boards is that we have an ongoing concern with the number of individuals who will not be going back to their former employment because their employers have had to permanently close as a result of the pandemic. And so we're trying to get a handle on what are the number of those individuals who were employed in a prior occupation and prior industry that are not going to be going back to that prior employment. And of course, that means they'll be coming to us, hopefully, for additional assistance in terms of retraining for new career and new career opportunities. And so we have engaged the services, again, of Chimura Economics and Analytics to take a look at the 15 localities that make up our region and give us some sense of the number of businesses that have been permanently closed as a result of the pandemic and help us to get a handle on what the expected number of dislocated workers may be in the days ahead that'll be knocking on our door for assistance. And we've also tried to look at this data. We've asked them to look at this data both across the entire population, but we're also concerned about how this may have impacted businesses in the Black community as well, businesses that are owned by individuals of color and such. We think this is an important number to get our hands on as well. So we're constantly trying to assess what is the situation so that we are adequately prepared with the resources that we need to deliver services to the folks that come to us for help and assistance.
Great. Our next question is from Tony Chavez. We have, let's see. Do we know if there will be any employers in cybersecurity at any of the upcoming job fairs?
Yes.
Go ahead.
We have a number of employers that have signed up, and there will be some cybersecurity. I know that they are talking about that right now. If you have an interest in that cybersecurity, or if I'm not sure if you're a company or you're an individual looking for employment in cybersecurity, I would suggest email me either way, and we can let you know when those job fairs are coming up. Or if you're interested in participating in the job fair, we'd be happy to connect you with them as well.
Yeah. I believe there were some cybersecurity companies that were recently involved in the statewide virtual job fair that was held this past week or so. And again, based on everything I'm reading in terms of numerous openings, IT, cybersecurity is certainly the place to go these days.
Okay, thank you. Our next question is from Fred Hayes, and he asks, if a business has an opportunity and looking to hire a veteran, is there a point person at the Norfolk headquarters to contact?
Yes, there is. Michael Hunter. And if it's easier to email me, Mr. Hayes, I'll be happy to make that connection. But yes, we have staff that can definitely connect, and we can make that happen. Either way, I don't know if there's a way we can email out my email address after this for Mr. Whitley and Mr. Hayes, but be more than happy to make that connection.
Great, thank you. Our next question is from Jennifer Romanelli, and she asks, how can school divisions partner with the Next Gen programs?
Well, since I've known Jennifer for a long time, Jennifer can reach out again. We're always looking for the school divisions to partner, especially now too. I think there's some opportunities with some schools going to full virtual where we can maybe do some virtual. I know we are doing some through our Next Gen program, doing virtual career exploration type programs, financial literacy type programs. And so we have a whole staff that can help set those up. And so Jennifer, I keep saying this, but recommend just reaching out to me. I'll make that connection with Christina Brooks. She's our Senior Director of Youth Initiatives, and she can make those connections.
Yeah. I have the pleasure of serving on the York County CTE Advisory Committee with Jennifer and such. And so again, those connections that we have through those programs and such with New Horizons and the various school divisions are a good way to stay in touch and stay connected in terms of the various services and programs that we can offer, and make sure that those in-school programs are readily available to all of the divisions that we have within the various communities throughout our region.
Okay, great, thank you. I'm looking for the next question here. This next one is also coming from Vaughn, and she's asking, can you share examples of how HR foundation funds are used to address workforce needs?
Yeah, definitely. So on our federal side of the house, what we can do is we can use up to $5,000 of our funds for an individual who's been determined eligible. That'll help them send back to school to receive a certification or a degree. And so that's on the individual side. But there's a lot of things we can do with the business community as well. And so being the chamber, this is probably a good discussion for you. We can do incumbent worker training. We can do on-the-job training activities where we actually pay part of the salary of an individual that comes into to your job. So it's basically you're training them as they're at work. And so that's a great way for somebody to get a skill who may not want to go to school, but really want to figure out how they can do it on the job. Apprenticeship is another area we can get involved in and help cover the costs. The incumbent worker piece is if you have an employee right now who say you want to train them up on a new product line that you're bringing on, we can help fund that as well. Economic development bonds, this is very important for you. If you've got a new prospect coming into town or a new employer that's opening up, we can come in and assist with some of the training around that. The great thing about having our non-federal funds is that we can be very customizable in some of the projects that we do. And so we encourage an individual that has maybe an opportunity or a thought on something that they would like to do, especially around a business or economic development, is give us a call, and then we can kind of figure out ways we can support that. For example, on the south side, we're helping to fund the Skilled Trade Center that TCC has, and we're also helping to fund the Logistics Training Center that Paul Camp has. So those are just some areas that we've been able to focus on. Then on the bigger picture pieces, our Veterans Employment Center is a great example of how we've used our funds to address a need in our community that may not have been able to be addressed with other funding that wasn't available. So we were able to develop that customizable program. So again, it's really around what the needs are in the community and continuing to identify those needs and then use our resources to help fill in the gaps or fund those type of programs.
Yeah, one of the things that we had here recently, it was about a year ago, Ferguson identified the fact that a number of their subcontractors in the plumbing business were having difficulty filling entry-level positions within their companies and such. And they provided funding through the foundation that allowed us to establish a entry-level program for folks that were interested in plumbing in that particular occupation through our friends over at New Horizons and such. So it just gives us another tool in our toolbox to really help address the needs, as Shawn said, of area businesses within our region.
Okay, great. I want to be mindful of time and take one last question. We do have some more in the chat, but I can get you connected after the call with those unanswered questions. But our last question is coming from Frank Arlotto, and he's in our conference room, so I'm going to try to switch it over or unmute him, but please bear with me for one moment.
Am I on now?
Yes, you're good. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. It's on the heels of the last response you just made, but first of all, I wanted to thank you for your time in the update and also for the support of your team over the last year and a half that I've worked with them. So thank them for all their efforts. My question is, do you have or will you have in your upcoming programs a way to identify those sectors that have the greatest workforce gaps? And then the second part, which is what you answered with the plumbing, to get those businesses involved where they have the greatest gaps, get those businesses involved to help solution and get to solve the workforce gaps.
Yeah, I think we're going to see the information that we're looking for in terms of those gaps that you mentioned come out of that last Chamura study that I spoke about that we just recently commissioned and such. And then that gives us the opportunity to use our business services unit to get in touch with those businesses and reach out to them to see how we can be of assistance to help them acquire the skill, the talent that they need. So I definitely see that as something we can do in the days ahead.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, being mindful of the time, it is 1 o'clock. Terry, I don't know if you want to wrap it up, but
I'll
I
take
can
it
connect
from
everybody
here.
else with the rest of the questions later.
Yep, I'll take it from here. So Shawn and Bill, thank you so very much. We will connect you with all of the people who had questions. We'll share our emails with, share their emails with you. And again, just a huge thank you and to everybody who called in and took time out of their day-to-day to spend with us. I hope you learned something, and I hope you'll reach out if you have any additional questions. Thank you guys very much, and be well.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.